Hi, everybody. Welcome back for another fantastic virtual tasting with us at Becker Vineyards. Tonight, we have quite a few people on the panel. We've also got some fantastic wines to go over this evening. We know we're 1 week and 1 day out from Thanksgiving. So we wanted everybody to try our favorites that we currently think just go with pretty much everything on the Thanksgiving table. Give yourselves a chance to try them ahead of time and then order some more for the table for Thanksgiving. So tonight we have our 2017 Jolie Rosé. We also have the 2015 Prairie Rotie and also our 2017 Cabernet Sauvignon Reserve from the Wilmeth family vineyard. And those three wines, they're going to be going in that order this evening. And tonight we have Dr. Joseph Becker with us. We also have our winemaker, John Leahy. We also have assistant tasting room manager, Bobby Totten. And I believe joining us a little bit into the broadcast is going to be Brett Pernew, our general manager. So I'll turn it over to the guys to get everybody started. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. Cheers, Rebecca. Thank you for a wonderful introduction. That's awesome. Bobby, welcome back for another week.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Joe, would you care to start us off this week, sir?
Sure. As always, it's a pleasure to be enjoying these weekly tastings with everybody who's watching, and knowing that unfortunately the world has grown darker around us. We're at 250,000 people have died from this awful pandemic. We have our frontline workers, doctors, nurses overwhelmed again. We have our schools, also being hit. But I know that we're all, as we are all Americans, we can all stick together and work together and be together and enjoy moments like this. And remember the as much as we can, the good moments, the good people, and the great things like wine that we like to share with each other and have wonderful conversations. And so with that, I say I hope that everyone always enjoys this brief moment every week as much as we do.
I will drink to that one. Thank you. So Bobby, Joe, cheers. I say, cheers. Hey, when Brett joins us, let's pretend like we can't hear him.
I'm on that one.
Well, and to everybody out there on Facebook, thank you for joining us again for yet another week 34 of these wonderful tastings. So we're going to start off with the Jolie Rosé. I want everybody to give it a swirl, a sniff, and a taste, and we'll dive right in. Thanksgiving's coming up around the corner, and this is a perfect time of the year for rosé. Oh man. I don't know about you two, but I can never get enough of the nose on this wine.
Beautiful. Sometimes I get a little bit of strawberry. Sometimes I get a little bit of, today I'm getting more kind of roses on the nose. I love that floral note on this wine. Beautiful.
Yeah. So pick up a hint of like orange blossom.
Yeah.
So 2-ethylguaiacol would be what you're getting off of that rose.
It's not as sexy, John.
I know. So Joe, yesterday at the winery, I ran into a couple, a brilliant couple out at the winery enjoying a glass of wine, and I had my mask on. I'm walking out on the patio. I was going in the back to steal some crackers because I'm getting ready to taste wine. And shh, Bobby, don't. But,
take an inventory.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. So anyway, I was coming back and they're like, "Are you the winemaker?" And I was like, "Or the head janitor." He's like, "Yeah, you're definitely the winemaker I see online." But anyway, I'm so happy that I haven't chased everybody off online yet. So this rosé, Bobby, what are your impressions?
Oh yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with the nose of the floral notes, the rose petals, the orange blossom, the strawberry as well. It's just, I think this is it's aged very well. This Jolie, it's definitely a crowd pleaser every time that when we bring people in, when we tell them that we have a Jolie as a complimentary sample, that everybody's just they're like, oh, they're just surprised and overwhelmed by how great our rosé is, how great the Jolie is. But personally, I think it's just so bright and crisp and refreshing. And I haven't tasted it in a while, but on the palate, I definitely get that sense of watermelon, bright acidity, which is balanced very well in there. And then a little, almost a hint of oak on the finish as well. I don't know how long we set this on oak, or if we actually did set it on oak, but
A little bit.
yeah.
Just a little. Yeah.
So for those that don't, just to remind everybody, this is not, just to back up, before we started this broadcast, John was asking us all who our favorite female artists were. And I have celebrity. Yes, thank you. And I have to say, along those lines, this is not an homage to Angelina Jolie. Just to remind everybody that Jolie was sort of kind of my mother's idea. Jolie is the is the French word for beautiful. It has sort of a kind of a young, pretty connotation to it, sort of delicate. And I think that it's a very apt name for this particular wine.
I think so too. I really do. And just in case you don't have the bottle in front of you, if you haven't joined us, it really, I love the redesign. This is a complete, even though we keep the oak tree, which is awesome, it really is a complete breakaway from the design of our normal label and normal etched bottles, which it really makes it stand out. And I love the clear bottle. I love the presentation, the package. I will geek out on packaging later. It just simply, the wine is, it's so well presented in that package. But yeah, so that's a good question for everybody out there watching us. Who are your top 3 female celebrities of all time? It could be the genre of painting, acting, music, writing, historical figures, certainly welcome, politicians, whatever. Your top 3 favorites. Just think about that, because I just love asking questions like that. It's kind of fun to see what people say.
I'd love to see what people share in the comment section.
Well, let's not. One of mine is Katherine Johnson, and I hope I've not butchered her name. I'm trying to go off of my memory, which of late has not been the best. But she's one of the 3 mathematicians that got us to the moon.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
I guess there was a movie, Hidden Figures. Is that the right name? That was done about the 3 ladies who did all the math behind getting us into outer space. So.
Yeah.
I would point out that Trish Williams is absolutely a wonderful artist. I know that she watches these frequently.
Trish, she's absolutely hysterical too. So she came by the winery a few weeks ago for her birthday. So Trish, if you're watching, we love you. And what about those pecans again? Are they Pawnee? Oh yeah, actually Trish just said hello. She's watching.
And I would actually, I'll stop for a second because I want to hear what Rebecca has to say before I ask John my question.
Sure. Is Rebecca still on, or did she hop off? Nope, she's there. Rebecca, you're muted.
I've just been being quiet in the background.
I can't see everybody. You can't be quiet, Rebecca. I will forget you were there.
This is all part of my plan. Joe found me out.
I found you. Yes, that's right.
So what are your impressions of the Jolie, Rebecca?
I'm always a big fan of all of our rosés. The Jolie has been kind of a favorite of mine since we first started. I think the first year we did this was a 14 for the Jolie in particular. And I've just always really loved it in that it's got that fuller body to it, which is why I really love this at Thanksgiving. Traditionally, I do a Friendsgiving since my family's out of state. And this year I'm opting to do my Thanksgiving just me and the dogs this year. Yeah. So I won't have as many bottles of Jolie with my Thanksgiving dinner, but there will definitely still be Jolie at the table. This what Joe and Bobby both said about the nose, the rose petal, I definitely get the strawberry a little bit on the nose. On the palate, I get that bright acidity I really enjoy that Bobby had pointed out. I also, for as light and bright and fun as this rosé is, that depth of flavor that it has, you still get a little bit of tannin on the finish that I really enjoy. And I think that's what helps it, kind of step up to more foods. But I do like that tannin. For me, I almost feel like I'm getting a little bit of that from Syrah. Is there a significant amount of Syrah in this blend, John?
There is a little bit, yes.
Okay. I feel like I'm getting some of those notes from a Syrah that are kind of tannic at the finish of this one in particular. So really enjoyable.
It is good. So Joe, further comments on this?
Well, actually, John, I wanted you to talk a little bit about how you employ Saignée and the method of Saignée in producing this wine.
Sure. We put it in from one tank to the next, and then we make a rosé. So,
It's just like, when I was in medical school, if you asked a question, and you're a medical student, I got the same kind of answer. It was like, you know what? You go figure it out.
Not on me, buddy.
Great invention called the internet.
Teach this to yourself, pal. So the technique of Saignée, for those who may not be familiar with it, is literally to bleed. So we'll take the red grapes, like in this instance, the Syrah that Rebecca mentioned. So we make a really rich red wine out of the estate Syrah, but the absolute, within a couple of hours of being in the tank, juice in red grapes is almost clear. All of the color, all of the flavor, all of the phenolic compounds, all of the complexity, all come from the outside, the skin of the red grape. So in order to increase that concentration, a technique employed by winemaking is to bleed or to Saignée the tank. So you figure your rough rule of thumb is 155 gallons of juice per ton of grapes. So we'll take a percentage of that, a very small percentage of that, and remove that juice the minute the grapes hit the tank before the color starts to leach out. So as soon as you break those skins, there's an enzymatic process that starts the breakdown of that color that starts leaching into the juice. So you want to get the juice out of there beforehand. Now, some French aficionados consider Saignée the illegitimate stepchild of rosé making. In the New World, where we allow the aristocracy of talent to shine through, we are allowed a lot broader palette of technique. And so one of the things we do direct press, as in traditional, but Saignée is a great way of taking just a little bit of juice from multiple tanks. One, you increase the concentration or the skin to juice ratio in those red tanks. And two, you get that very light to pink color out of there. So you get a much lighter color rosé wine out of it. Now you can Saignée over the next 24 hours. I don't prefer to Saignée past 12 to 16 hours. I feel that there's too much color in there. You've already gotten the phenolic structure that's starting to make that red wine. So I like to cut it off rather early. If I want a really light, delicate wine, I'll do direct press on the red grapes.
So
John,
what?
Brett has now joined us.
Yeah.
Yes, I can see him. He's there.
Can you hear?
It's probably a
We
good
can
thing.
hear you.
Say, Brett does not like it when I direct press grapes. He's like, what are you taking a $20,000 a ton grape for and making rosé out of it?
$2,000 a ton Grenache is not so cool when we don't have very much Grenache, right?
Yeah, exactly. I can't argue that point, but I do like giving you hell for it. So do you have your rosé?
Got it. Yeah. So I was thinking about it since I was late. I think that this lineup that you guys picked for this, or we picked, is like replicating the last 10 Thanksgivings at my house. This is how the day starts in the Jolie department, and then it moves into the Prairie Rotie, and then we end up with a cab or something at the end of dinner. But this will be pretty fun for the preview for the Thanksgiving upcoming week.
Yeah, absolutely. I like this lineup for Thanksgiving. I think it's great. We quite often overlook rosé as a culinary attribute to dinners, but rosé really with a traditional American Thanksgiving dinner does a great job. And I think there's enough body in this that it will appeal to die-hard or dyed-in-the-wool red wine drinkers only. I think we'll enjoy the rosé with this feast.
I also think that it does really well with the Texas fall, just by itself. We tend to be outside a little bit more on Thanksgiving in Texas. And the weather's been absolutely splendid lately to sit outside and have a glass of this particular wine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great for sitting outside, or if you have a mood to go frolic in a fountain somewhere, I hear it's really great for that too.
Oh my God. Okay. Thanks. We're not going to revisit that.
Some of John's greatest ideas have come from frolicking in the fountain.
That's what I hear.
Just
I know.
picture an inner tube.
Yeah.
All I can say is if you haven't danced in a fountain, you're not truly living. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I haven't seen this personally, you know, so I doubt that it's really happened, but no.
Okay, buddy, on our next trip.
Yeah.
Like to be a fly on the wall with that one.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know,
Or not.
my embarrassing everything. So any besides the obvious, I'm going to ask you all. We'll break down the Thanksgiving feast. What one dish that you absolutely have to have at Thanksgiving besides turkey and stuffing? What one dish do you absolutely have to have at Thanksgiving? Bobby, why don't you lead off the group with that?
That green bean casserole. Got to have that
Okay.
green bean casserole.
Okay. Rebecca, what do you have to have on the Thanksgiving table?
Okay, if I
One.
have to have my grandma's apple pie.
Apple pie overall, I love. So Joe, what's the one dish?
Okay, so I'm gonna say two things. I know you said no stuffing, but I have to say stuffing is big in our family because my mother made this incredible cornbread based stuffing where she would make real cornbread and then turn it into the most amazing stuffing that you could ever have. I think you could, for health reasons, argue about whether or not to actually stuff it in the turkey, but that was always a must. And the other thing I would bring up is that my dad's mother, Floyd's, had this incredible recipe for rolls, for bread rolls, and it has been passed down. His brother Robert makes it, his sister Carolyn makes it. Those are an absolute must. And this year, my father has offered to make the rolls for our Thanksgiving. So we're
Wow.
I'm calling him out. You know, I know he's going to watch this at some point. But they were an absolute must because they were great with dinner. They were great the next day when you just wanted to sneak something to snack on. So that I will that's what I have to say.
Perfect. Okay, Brett, what's the one dish?
Tenderloin, no.
Yeah, I knew it.
We say we don't do so much of the poultry in our family. It's usually a tenderloin, but
Sure.
And all joking aside, I think that when you're looking for something different than turkey, there's so many alternatives that you can go with. But we started making a pumpkin soup that was in one of the cookbooks that is really easy to make, and that's been something we've had for a long time. And my mother-in-law cooks the best turkey on the planet. I don't think anybody can touch it. So I think that's why we kind of quit on the turkey cooking because she does such a great job. And we usually do what we have the family over at Thanksgiving at lunch. And then we do Friendsgiving in the afternoon, in the evening, where somebody may be at the winery. Rebecca's been before, Kaylin's been. We invited the people from the Chinese food place in Fredericksburg that got to come over a couple years ago that we're friends with. So we do Friendsgiving in the afternoon. We're not going to do that this year, obviously, but at least with such a big group. But those things are what make that day special, I think. Just being around people and good food.
Totally agree.
No, I agree with you. You know, we did 4 years ago. We had 36 people from our family here at the house, and Jody and I did all the cooking. Thankfully, we had 2 kitchens, so it's just I don't know how we did it. But I think the one dish I have to have above and beyond all else is fresh homemade cranberry relish. Though for years I thought cranberry relish came with the rings of the inside of the can. That's what it should look like. But
Yeah.
so,
That's a given.
okay. Well, Joe, to your point, I was going to ask about stuffings later on, and we will get to that.
Okay.
There's a big debate around that, but I kind of want to move on if we can. I'd like to move on to the Prairie Rotie, if everybody has it. It's our 2015 Prairie Rotie, and if you have it with you, somebody just said yams and marshmallows.
Yes.
Yeah, that very traditional. anyway, give it a swirl, a sniff, and a taste. And Rebecca, will you lead us
No.
off with this?
I'm just opening mine.
Brett, have you opened
I
yours?
drove home and literally sat down in this chair and got onto this phone call 2 minutes before we went live. I'm opening my wine right now.
Heck, you're shaking your head. Nope, pop.
Yeah. So my kids have done, so one of the other things that we're doing a lot of is these private virtual tastings. And so the kids know when I come running in the house with a backpack and my computer and wine, they actually start grabbing the openers for me and start helping opening the bottles, And
Nice.
Oh man, you got beautifully trained
Perfect.
children.
yeah, my 15-year-old is a pro at popping the corks. And so anyway, I got here today and I was late thinking that they were home and nobody's here. So I had to open them. And so I thought I'm not even going to get on there until I get set up. But, one of the things that I think is very interesting is just the first smell on this for me is I always talk about this a lot at the winery, the order in which you taste wine, how it sets your palate up for the next one. And we spend a lot of time kind of walking through our tastings when we're doing tasting notes in our vertical flights right now, trying to make sure that we're not giving you something that's going to screw you up for the next taste or go backwards or forwards. And I always thought that these two were like synonymous to be together. I always thought that the Jolie should be first and then the Prairie Rotie should come after it, just because it sets your mouth up for that flavor that's going to come in. And I think it's still happening here.
Oh yeah. So I've had the Prairie Rotie opened for about 45 minutes now. And it's a 2015, so it really does need to be decanted. It's 5 years in the bottle or 3 years in the bottle, excuse me.
I just want to say for a second, we've tasted this wine in some of these tastings. I don't remember if it's a specific year, but I think it's just interesting to since we have a little bit of time to talk about, what the inspiration for this wine originally was, because it's a wine that we've been making for many years. And originally we planted a lot of Rhones. So as people don't know, this is a Prairie Rotie is inspired by the Rhone appellation designation Côte Rotie, which means roasted hillside. And so it's the most northern appellation in the Rhone, with these very steep hillsides. The grapes are planted on the western hillsides. In some areas, a 55-degree gradient, but just incredible sunlight exposure. And it's as far as varietals go, it's an area that's known for Syrah and Viognier in a lot of the blends, and you get these beautiful, rich, full-bodied wines. It was been around for a couple hundred years. Thomas Jefferson loved it, but the idea that as we felt that our area of Texas we might be able to grow Rhones very well because our climate's fairly similar. And so we had this idea that we could do the Prairie Rotie, that we, if you think about some of our growers in West Texas, some of the grapes we planted in the hill country, we have a roasted Prairie. And so we were trying to make a kind of a northern Rhone style of red wine. And that's where that comes from.
Yeah, I love the Northern Rhone, Joe. I absolutely adore it. Beaucastel, north of Lorange, the Vacaras area, that little tiny appellation there, those really deep, rich Syrah-based blends.
Yeah.
And it has taken us a number of years to get all of the right components together. The growers planting for us, or said
Right.
they're planting this, it coming together with these different varietals. In 2015 was a damn good year. It really was. And then followed up within the 2017 vintage for these Rhone varietals just made it perfect. But Bobby, what are your impressions of this wine? We'll come back around to Joe and Brett and Rebecca now that Rebecca's got the bottle open. But Bobby, what are your impressions of the wine?
Well, that nose, it just kind of reminds me of like almost an old world Pinot. I mean, you almost get a little bit of that earthy kind of characteristic on the nose. Kind of some black pepper and some peppery notes to it. On the palate, I mean, definitely getting some plum. Nice tannin structure to it as well. Kind of almost draws on a little bit of that moisture on the palate. And it's a really beautiful wine. It's aged very well.
Yeah, it has. And you're right. There is a lot of earth on here. I agree. Hey, Brett. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
No, sorry. Go ahead. Nope. Go ahead.
No. So Brett, what do you think?
Well, I think that the thing I love about this wine, and I've always loved about it, is it's balanced all the way through its taste. I think it's a great light to mid-body red wine. The tannins are not in your face too much. The flavors are soft. But again, it's not a wimpy wine. So I remember when we first started making this, we would talk about these Northern Rhone wines that were kind of lighter in their body. But I just remember as we made this, people try it and they're like, man, this is a really light bodied wine, but it still has a lot going on in it. It's not, it's not like it's thin. It's not like it's just, there. And I think that's the part that I've always enjoyed about it, is that it doesn't have to be this big tannic, bomb of anything. And I always talk about the balance that we try to put in these wines. And I think that this one specifically, as John alluded to a lot, being regionally correct, varietal correct. If we're going after that region, I think that this kind of mimics those. And that's what I enjoy about it.
Yeah, it is pretty good. So Joe,
what I love, I think, when I first smell this wine, I feel like it's very much driven by the Mourvèdre that's in it. And I know that Mourvèdre is known for having kind of a farmyardy aroma to it. I get a little bit of that on the nose, in a good way. Rebecca's smiling at me, and I agree with Brett. I think it's an absolutely very well balanced wine through and through.
Yeah, I love the fact that you picked out the Mourvèdre, because we always talk about Tempranillo being Texas's red wine, and there's no argument there. It does very, very well here, but deep in my heart, I think Mourvèdre does so well in Texas compared to the West Coast. My impressions between the two, having Mourvèdre from about 6 different AVAs, I absolutely love the way Mourvèdre expresses itself here in Texas, especially between the hill country and the high plains. Somebody just asked a question like, what are some of the new varietals on the horizon for Central Texas? Mourvèdre's already here, but I will also say, just throw out one word for you asking that question, Mr. Gage: Charbonneau. Anyway,
that's good.
Now I'm gonna lock my office door and not let me talk to you. But the Rhone varietals, I think, do so very well here in the hill country, and with Drew Talent does such an incredible job with some of these Rhone varietals. In addition, Farmhouse up on the high plains, and of course, does a fantastic job with those.
So Mourvèdre, just for a second, is just such an interesting grape, because it seems like it should do very well in Texas. It needs that warmer climate to ripen, because in a lot of the cooler climates it can be very finicky. And
But one of the problems that we have, and I know this has caused all of us a little bit of frustration later in the season, because you've got like the Carignan and Mourvèdre up in the high plains tend to be late ripeners. And so we're chasing the end of the harvest season with that. And there have been a couple of years where we've, everything was perfect, but that last oomph, and it started to mold and mildew. It went over it. We lost a couple things just at the very end. It's heartbreaking for the winery and just soul breaking for the grower who's put.
Half of my bald spot is due to Rhone varietals on the high plains.
Yeah, that would be my
Brett,
line.
Brett, this wine has a lot of varietals in it that would contribute to your bald spot. It also has Barbera in it, as I understand.
Oh yeah. So Brett, what about Alvarinho? No.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Sort of tight.
I'd like to say that I contribute to at least a quarter of that bald spot. Brett.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I think we all have a stake in that real estate.
Sure.
So, well, Rebecca, what do you think of the Prairie Rotie? Let's get your impressions.
Prairie Rotie is always one that I recommend. It's one that, because it's a blend, and I think that this is, it's one of those things, we make so many different wines. When someone comes in and they're trying to figure out what to buy or what to purchase, they tend to go for something that they recognize. And we had this whole conversation when we talked about the 3 C's, because they're different and people aren't used to them. And the Prairie Rotie, I think, suffers from that as well if you don't know what it is and you're not sure. And it's one that I always recommend that people try, because it really is, anytime you try it, it's such a crowd pleaser. When it's brand new, it's a little bit on the lighter bodied side, light to medium bodied. With this amount of age, it's definitely more on the medium bodied side, and it has developed really, really well. And I'm really sorry, I'm hearing my dogs bark in the background. I apologize. Someone's apparently walking down our street and did not ask permission, and they're very upset. So,
That's the ambiance.
Yeah.
right? But this Prairie Rotie for me, the 2015, I really love the age on it. And I love, the nose. I get that forest floor that is one of those things that we all kind of laugh about when somebody says, I get forest floor, but it really is. It's like this dewy, earthy, there's like a mushroom fungus component in a good way, like all of these great things. And I really love that on the nose. And then on the palate, it really does have a meatier palate. It's definitely got some nice depth of flavor to it. It's got some nice tannins on the finish. And for starting out as a light to medium bodied red, and to have it have this much age on it and see how it develops, I'm really pleased and pleasantly surprised. And I think everybody else is too, when they see a 2015. Yeah, your animals are more well behaved than mine, John. I don't know.
No, somebody just asked to see the cat, so I just.
But I think this is definitely one that unfortunately gets overlooked, but it's always one that I recommend, and I specifically recommend this one for Thanksgiving every year as well.
I agree. So, and Jet's on, and Jet, I'm not ignoring you. And yes, your Mourvedre is beautiful, but we're going to give you so much love. You're going to think that you're an angel in heaven, buddy.
Yeah.
So,
John,
yes.
I just think the blend is so interesting on this particular Prairie Rotie, because this also has some Carignan in it too, does it not?
Yes, it does. And so is this my cue to give you the blend comp?
Sure.
Okay, because I actually have it here in front of me. See, on my smartphone, because there's somebody in the winery who actually didn't hate me today and resent me this. Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks, Rachel.
I haven't made her life difficult today, so she was very cooperative. So we've got Mourvedre, Carignan, Petit Syrah, then there's a little tiny, just a couple percentage points of Cabernet and Barbera in there. So the most of it's from the High Plains, and then a small amount from the Texas Hill Country. We've got Reddy, Becker, Talent, and quite a bit of Becker in there. So,
but it's literally 50% High Plains and 50% Hill Country on my sheet, which is cool because that was not on purpose. It's just how it shook out, right?
Yeah, exactly how it shook out. 15, we had an awful lot, Brett. We it was 2 years after that 13 harvest, so 15 was 100% full, and we had actually increased our intake of fruit for that year. So we were really dealing with north of 1,200, 1,300 tons, and we had such a wide selection to choose from when we started going through and getting those wines in. And then, a year later, I'm going through there tasting those. And then when we had to come up with the Prairie Rotie, going through that, it really was having an entirely full palate. There was no bars held to choose from these wines. And it just kind of shook out that way. This was a wine that we went through over 18 permutations on tasting. So over the course of several weeks trying to come up with the 15 Prairie Rotie.
Wow.
So this is one of the wines that now it ages beautifully. So I do want to ask, so Brett and Joe specifically, what do you think? Brett, how long do you think this bottle will last? If somebody has it well stored, what are your projections?
Go ahead, Joe.
Okay.
Cheater.
So Pikachu and I think it's probably got another at least 5 to 10 years.
Right on.
Yeah, I agree too. And John, I remember too, we like this so well, we made a lot of it, and that's why we're still on the 15. We haven't made another one since then, right? I mean,
no, we're actually, in lieu of this, my focus went over to our GSM, our new program, trying to do that. But going back through the 18s and 19s, looking at doing a small amount of follow-up Prairie Rotie, we've got so many more Rhone varietals to choose from. I think it's it's probably going to take a bit of a shakeout, a change in direction. So,
Yeah, and I think going back to that question about how long this will age, we felt comfortable making 4 or 5 years worth when we tasted this. That's how much we liked it. And it's kind of a good day at the winery when you go, well, heck, we could make a ton of this. It could be around for a long time and we could pour it, be excited about it. But that's I think where we're at with this one.
Yeah, I think this one's going to last another 10 years easy in the bottle. I don't think it's properly stored. I don't think I'll have a problem. I think it tastes beautiful now. I will say, please, please, please decant this wine before serving. At least an hour in a decanter, or open the bottle, pour a little bit out in a glass and let the air go through the bottle, just cork off, let it sit for a while. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised, especially when it comes to a meal. So, Joe, you started this earlier, so we're going to get to it now. The great Thanksgiving stuffing debate. So apparently you're in the cornbread side of the life. Oh, you're muted, or you're yeah.
Absolutely, I'm in the cornbread side of life.
Okay, Rebecca.
So I grew up not having cornbread. It's not a thing.
Where the hell did you grow up?
Grew up north in the Midwest.
Canada?
I grew up in Iowa. We didn't have cornbread stuffing. We had regular bread stuffing. My grandma used French baguettes and would tear it up and let it.
Ooh, that'd be interesting.
And it was really, really yummy.
Yeah.
Since living in Texas now for 20 years, I've had cornbread stuffing, and I can tell you that I have turned into a very odd duck in that I really love cornbread stuffing with jalapenos in it.
Oh, okay. So you're turning into quite the Tex-Mex aficionado.
I can't help it. I like the spices.
Brett, I'm not putting you on the hot spot, but you got to think about this. So, Bobby, what do you think, stuffing wise?
Yeah.
What camp are you in?
I grew up the stovetop.
That was college for me. Stovetop was college life. Yes.
Yeah. No shame. No shame.
It was fantastic.
It was. My grandmother, however, she would make cornbread stuffing, and she was from Canada. So she did everything scratch, lived the farm life. So she was a great cook, but yeah, cornbread stuffing, that's where I'm at.
Okay. Brett?
My answer is yes to all. No. I'm not a very picky.
I haven't met a stuffing I didn't like.
Yeah, no, I'm not a very picky.
Brett's like, I've tried to follow keto most of the year. So on Thanksgiving, I would like all the carbs, no matter what they are.
Bring them on.
And I do think that one of the things that's been amazing is that, again, going back to like, what's the coolest dinner, thing that you've ever had? Some of the times it's when you're having your grandma's stuffing, or some of the times it's when we've been at these incredible dinners, when we've had wine paired with whatever. But I do think that, like, one of the best things about Thanksgiving is when you hang out with a lot of people, is they bring 35 different versions of stuffing and you get to try them all. And that's the cool part about having a big family and then being able to go through these cookbooks and try different things. And I'm telling you about that pumpkin recipe that we started with earlier. We just found it in this, we were going and we were trying to have an alternative maybe thing that we normally didn't have, that everybody in our family gets stuck in a rut and they bring the same thing every time. And so we found that pumpkin soup recipe, and I'm like, I'm bringing this year instead of green bean casserole.
That pumpkin soup really good.
It's in Southern Living cookbook. Chris just handed it to me.
Southern Living.
I get a plug.
So I have
shot of that later.
John, were you going to talk about pies? Because if not, I had one controversial thought.
You've got to hold your horses, buddy.
All right.
We're getting to dessert. You're a dessert first kind of guy, aren't you?
I had an idea and I wanted to run it past the crowd, but
yes,
I can wait.
We will. But stuffing is such. I mean, of course, the main dish and everybody's favorite side, but stuffing is such a. I swear, family feuds have been fought over stuffing, and I personally love stuffing with roasted chestnuts in it. From my childhood, played a very important part in the holidays. But you mentioned putting stuffing in the bird. I feel compelled to tell people, make sure the bird and the stuffing are above 168 degrees Fahrenheit before serving, please. But I'm on team bread on this. It doesn't matter the stuff. I love cornbread stuffing. I love white bread stuffing. I like sausage stuffing. I think, and I have not had cornbread stuffing with jalapeno. So Rebecca, you have given me a new venue to explore.
Well, and I think all those go with this. So like try it out with this wine.
They sure do, Brett.
Just
They
line them all
sure
up
do.
and you're good.
Oh yes,
That's true.
I have to agree, but stuffing, to me, the best use of stuffing is the next day on a turkey sandwich with cranberry relish and stuffing as a sandwich.
Oh, can't beat that.
As Brett, and if you've got a little bit of this left over, that would be a perfect pair for the next day of Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah.
Got your football games on, you got your sandwich, and you've got a glass of Prairie Rotie.
Yeah. You know, somebody just put in here. Carol. I think you know this lady. Her last name's Callahan. I don't know. Carolyn.
Callan, yeah.
Alan, yeah.
Dressing for us, and Mom's was half cornbread, half buttermilk biscuits. Now,
Okay.
that is an avenue we've got to explore. Yeah.
Again, when are we getting Carolyn's cookbook? And when is she coming down here to cook all of these things for us? She keeps teasing us. Carolyn?
Yep.
Because I'm just saying that I think she likes messing with us. Okay, so Joe, pies. And then we'll go on to the Cabernet.
I wanted to know how people would feel about pairing this Prairie Rotie with mincemeat pie.
Oh, hands down, perfect pairing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would
Just
agree on that.
Rebecca was talking about the meatiness of this. But I think I was just thinking this would be another great pairing option for this wine.
Okay, but I got to put in there, it's got to be traditional mincemeat. It can't be some candy stuff. It's got to have the real suet and the real bits of roast beef in that mincemeat pie filling. And yes, mincemeat is sweet, and yes, it's goopy sweet, but it's got to have that fat in there, and that would go beautifully with this wine.
Yeah.
Carolyn also makes an incredible mincemeat pie.
Who just made that noise?
Who do you think made that noise? It's the one person in my household that hates mincemeat pie. That's not me.
I thought that was coming from the cat in the chair next to
It
you.
is.
So I need to share a Becker story.
But
So one of the great stories in my family is that many years ago on Thanksgiving, I don't know how it came about, but Dad and I decided to have a pie making contest, and he decided that he was going to make mincemeat pie from his mother's recipe, and that I was going to make pumpkin pie from my mom's recipe. And so we made the pies. The difference was that he was making the pie by himself, and I had a very exceptional helper on my team, which was Mom. So we won the contest hands down. But that's always been a famous
No, I'm
contest
pretty
in our
sure
family.
that's cheating.
Yeah.
No, hold on.
I claim it's because I was younger.
I think I need to address this idea of cheating. It's not cheating. It's called resource management.
Yeah, and hopefully you made the bet before your mom came on your team, because then you were queuing to win it.
That's right.
Exactly. So just so you know, that mincemeat, the suet, is the fat from around the kidney of the beef. So that's very important.
Oh my God, I just about made the same thing that your wife did right in the middle of the drink.
Unfortunately, mincemeat filling should be made about 6 months in advance, but we'll go on from there. So I guess on that happy note, so on to the Cabernet Sauvignon, the 2017 Wilmeth Family Vineyards.
I got the biggest glass that I could find in the house. This thing is ginormous. Look,
Right?
Nice work.
this is the regular bowl of the Pinot glass. I don't even know where Chris found this thing, but it's like, I think it'll hold a gallon.
Wow.
Is that the sommelier glass?
No, this is
That's the one I always grab when I go to the house.
no, but look how big. I don't think because the stem is big. Look,
Okay. How big is the bowl? Is it a 33-ounce bowl?
it'll hold. You want to see? You want to see the bottle?
No. I want to see.
Isn't that a song by AC/DC, Big Bowls?
Yeah, look.
Yes.
So this is, look.
I like big bowls.
Look at that.
And there's still room at the top.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I would say 33.
Yes.
33-ounce bowl. Oh, that's funny.
Here, I gotta put this back over the sink because I'm getting told I can't pour it over the couch.
Okay,
Ah.
before we go on to that, I just want
Smart.
to address Beverly, who just said yuck to mincemeat pie. Beverly, mincemeat pie is fabulous. It's filled with spices. It's lots of sugary goodness, and you never know that there's a little bits of meat and fat in there. It actually melts together. So
Beverly, don't let
it's
him
Dad's
think you-
favorite
You
pie.
don't want to have mincemeat pie. Don't do it.
When it's done right.
when it's done right, that is
Yes.
correct. Sir. Okay, so Rebecca, why
Yes.
don't you lead us off with the Cabernet?
Okay.
Oh,
So
hold
just
on.
watching, right? I have to say all my good words.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I actually, one of the reasons that I was dashing to be here was that I was on the phone with a customer, and she was placing 4 separate orders, and she was asking for advice on which wines. And she said, she said she looked at our website and she was researching, and she thought this was one of the wines that she had picked, and she was just asking, what I thought of it. And I said, this is absolutely one of my favorites every year, but in particular right now. This particular wine won double gold at San Francisco, 93 points. I really, really love this Cabernet. It has so much that I feel like we get from the soil. That red dirt, that just it just really, really comes through in this wine, and I really love that. I get that mostly on the palate. On the nose, I tend to get some spices, almost like a red spice on the nose.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's just it's a really great cab that I think pairs really well. And we've paired this one with some interesting choices over the last year or so when we've been doing the food and wine pairings. And that's one of the other things that I really like about this Cabernet is that we sort of came upon some really interesting pairings accidentally. And it's one of those things where you always have to remind yourself, don't restrict yourself to Cabernets, only go with, a huge steak that's really, really big and beefy. It can also be paired with so many other things. And this cab is definitely the epitome of that. It's just a wonderful, very well balanced Cabernet that I think lends itself to a lot of different foods.
I agree with you. We use this cab to have steak and flourless chocolate cake. Didn't have to change wines, which made me very happy. But so Joe, what are your impressions, sir, of the Cabernet again?
I just am always awestruck by the incredibly delicate dark fruit notes that you could blindfold me, and I could. This is one that you could blindfold me, and I can tell you this is Jet's Vineyard. These are it's this characteristic, just beautiful, delicate, but just dark, rich, dark fruit notes. I love it. And when I taste it, the tannins are so, they're just very balanced. They're very delicate.
They are. Yeah. So Brett,
Well, I was about to do this glass comparison I had sitting here. So I've got the big one that we completely filled. And then these are 2 Riedel cab glasses. Look at the difference in the bowl. Okay.
you drank that awfully fast there, pal.
Oh, no, but then I went to grab this one because Chris poured it. And look how full this was. I couldn't drink it. But I do think that what's interesting, I'm going to go on 2 things here. One is we talk about glassware a lot, right? This is the whole key to a lot of the things that we're doing. I have exactly, these are Cabernet from Riedel Glass Company. These 2 wines in this glass, if you gave them to 100 people, they would all think that they're 2 different wines, and they're not. Okay. Right. However, I do think that Jet's Vineyard, like there's a fruit note that comes out in this that is so dark. And we were talking about the Prairie Rotie being like the lighter version of the wine spectrum. This is getting into the dark and the deep part of what should be a Cabernet. And and I'm not seeing Jet's comments, but a lot of the times when Jet holds his fruit and he waits for it to get ripe and he does everything he needs to do for us to make great wine out of it, this is what is coming out in this glass.
Yes.
Phenomenal.
And again, I think that's why as we're progressing through dinner, at our house, we jump over the turkey and go to the tenderloin. And then this is where this stuff starts to really work. So.
Oh, it does. It does shine with tenderloin. I'll agree with you there.
I would still drink it with turkey too, by the way. So don't think it's
Well, you mentioned this though, that, for years, Jody and I did not do a traditional turkey dinner. We did, is where we were living at the time. Crab season started a week before Thanksgiving. So we did fresh Dungeness for Thanksgiving dinner. And it lends itself to white wines, but our Prairie Rotie we've had with crab and the Jolie both, they're wonderful. But if you're not doing a traditional dinner, any one of these three wines is going to pair with a broad variety of foods. I think you'll overall, you'll find something in this pack that'll work.
And just to Brett's point, this makes me want to know, this wants a wonderful gravy.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm just curious, some people are very picky about their gravy. John, do you have a specific gravy recipe that you use that you like?
Yeah, I am actually kind of picky about gravy too, Joe, but and we will use the drippings. The turkey gravy is kind of hard to make. I don't use raw flour to thicken anything. I either use roux, a toasted roux. So I hate the flavor of raw flour. And I know it's a shortcut for a lot of people, but for us, for turkey gravy, I actually use potato flour, not potato starch, but potato flour to thicken the gravy because it has a much smoother taste. And turkey is fatty and it has a very distinct flavor, but it carries it through. So for Thanksgiving, like when we do for Christmas, we do a standing rib roast, then we make Yorkshire pudding and we do a roast beef gravy. I will use a toasted roux for that, a little heavier melody.
Right.
But yeah, the gravy, this Cabernet actually does very well with gravy. There's enough fat in there that it holds up to the tannins.
What do you mean, the gravy where you pull the top off and just add water doesn't count?
Yes, absolutely. Wait for 45 seconds.
I mean, I heard that there was one or two here in the house just on like a Wednesday night if we have company or something weird,
Throw it in the microwave. It's good.
It was for the volleyball team when they come over to eat potatoes for starch to load up on carbs.
I'm just saying that this Cabernet goes very well with biscuits and gravy at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I think, John, your point is about and I'll steal some of your thunder a little bit when you talk about proteins and how they break down and fats. And I think that when you try this, no matter what you're trying it with, if it has a high fat content, it's probably going to work, and you could be taking the lean part of the ham, but yet there's still quite a bit of fat in there if you're cooking ham versus turkey, and I'm telling you right now, I've had all these wines for Thanksgiving, it's, like I said, 10 times. And I still don't think it would not work with anything that we're talking about.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. There are a lot of foods, so we've got to go back. Joe, you started the pie controversy.
All right.
He's like, oh crap.
I got to eat pie now. Damn it.
Right. Yeah.
So, but I want, let's leave mincemeat where it is. But I want everybody to think of their favorite pie. You can repeat it. It's fine. But what one pie, if you could do one pie only for Thanksgiving, what pie would that be? And Rebecca, we're going to start with you. And I think I know your answer.
There's not one pie. There's not. That's not a thing. It can't ever be one pie. So for my Friendsgiving, I'm always required to bring pie. That's my job. I bring pie and I bring wine. It's kind of awesome because the whole rest of the Thanksgiving meal is made for me. This year is going to be rough. So it's just going to be me with pie and wine, I think.
That doesn't sound rough. That sounds awesome.
But, so my friend Jack that always invites me over for Friendsgiving, he loves buttermilk pie, and I had never had buttermilk pie till I moved to Texas. So it's always a challenge for me. I try and come up with the best buttermilk pie recipe, and I think buttermilk pie is fantastic. I also Thanksgiving is my pie holiday. So that, like, all the pies on Thanksgiving. So there's buttermilk pie, there's chocolate pecan pie, which I think this Wilmeth cab pairs exquisitely with.
That'd be good.
A chocolate
That sounds
pecan
really good.
pie.
Okay, Rebecca, I'm gonna stop you there. I know there are many more pies, but I don't want you to name all the pies.
There's 4 pies.
Okay, I know there are more pies, but Bobby, what pie? What pie for you?
Oh man, always pumpkin, just traditional pumpkin, but I have to pile at least a mile high of whipped cream, Cool Whip on top. That's been my thing.
Cool Whip isn't whipped cream, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. I would like to have a little bit of pumpkin with my Cool Whip.
Okay. So Joe, what pie?
My mom made an incredible coconut chestnut pie.
Oh my gosh.
Coconut chestnut pie.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh, man,
I
that
miss it.
sounds awesome. So Brett, pie.
Yes, again is the answer.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, Chris's grandmother had a great apple pie recipe, and I think that they when you go down to is it Hondo, Chrissy? Hondo, Texas, they make a 26-pound apple pie. Okay. Yeah, Medina Hondo. If you're in Medina, Texas, go by this little pie shop. What's it called? Love's. 26-pound apple pie, and you kind of go, how can this happen? And they it's like, but that's
Wow.
where they were from down there. And anyway, her grandmother made the most incredible apple pie. So if I had to pick one, that would be it. But I still think Rebecca's answer is correct. There cannot be, if you have 10 people over for dinner and they don't bring a pie, then you don't invite them back next year.
That's right.
See, I love traditional pumpkin pie, but in the South, sweet potato pie.
Yeah.
Oh, I miss it.
You know, and
Yeah.
I have to have one or the other to have a holiday pie. But my all-time favorite pie, honestly, is pecan pie. And no, I'm going to go out and get really weird on you. I like it cold, not warm. I know everybody loves pecan pie warm. I like it cold with a scoop of ice cream on top. So.
Oh, see, I like it cold without the ice cream. I only like it with ice cream if it's warm. But
it's
I
gonna be warm.
totally love cold pecan pie, but not with ice cream.
Okay, but you know the one pie I like warm that I love. Okay, this is going to be weird, but if you haven't had it, don't make fun of it. I like warm apple pie with a slice of 12-year aged white cheddar.
I've heard that. I've heard that the cheese
Yeah.
with the.
And that will show you part of my family's Yankee roots. But that is absolutely a wonderful way to have pie, and that's always in the holidays. Warm apple pie with a slice of white cheddar. So
Y'all are all really weird. I don't understand why you're so picky. Just eat what they bring.
I just have to say, when I was little,
turning any pie down. I'm just saying.
when I was little, when I was little, you know, we would go in to watch the Cowboys game, and Mom would have a mincemeat pie, a pumpkin pie, pecan pie, the coconut, and the sweet potato pie.
Yep.
And Uncle Robert would get his plate, and he'd come up and he'd say, "I'm going to do Uncle Robert's triple play," which was a pumpkin, a pecan, and a mincemeat. You know,
Yeah. Sorry. Cats are jumping and falling everywhere. So what? I'm sorry, Joe. I missed Uncle Robert's.
that's okay. It's okay. No, we pies have always been an important part of the Becker household.
Hey Joe, normally you reference watching the Cowboys game. I remember growing up, we would sit at the table like we were supposed to, but we would always strategically sit where we could see the big screen TV
Right.
that was on in the kitchen. I mean, on in the living room. And at one point, my stepdad and I were like sitting there glued to the TV watching the Cowboys game. And there was a very, maybe time in the dinner where you're supposed to be paying attention, and there was an immediate reprimand, like, "Wah-pah." Like, why are you boys sitting on this side? And it was like, because you could see the reflection in the mirror or the TV to watch the game. That's why we sit over here every year.
So I have to say one food item that hasn't been brought up that I just can't believe I didn't mention. It should have been my one thing that should always be included.
Yes.
Are deviled eggs.
Mm.
So I know that not everybody
don't know
loves
that.
deviled eggs. I have
As a
always
Thanksgiving
loved deviled eggs.
tradition.
Deviled eggs were always a Thanksgiving tradition. So my grandma D, who I'm actually named after, my middle name is D. So my grandma D, we always went to her place for Thanksgiving, and she would always make deviled eggs for the table, and then she would make a separate tray of deviled eggs just for me.
Nice.
Wow.
Because I loved her deviled eggs.
Is
So
that what
All
you
right,
guys
Rebecca,
make?
you and I need to talk. I love deviled eggs.
yep, Grandma D's deviled eggs. She always made me my own separate tray every year.
So what I love in deviled eggs is replace the part of the mayonnaise with mashed avocado and then candied jalapeno.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
She always had some pickle in there, and of course the paprika, but the pickle relish was always good in there too. Yeah.
Yeah, that would.
So apparently we all love Thanksgiving because there's
We
been
all
no
love
shortage of
food.
food.
Yes.
So
And I think with the pandemic, I
Yeah.
think we're all going to really love food even more this year.
right.
It's
So
on.
Rebecca, what
Right.
to get back in line here a little bit?
With
What's on
wine?
line for next week on the wine?
There's wine.
Wines next week. Okay, so next week is really cool because we have a brand new first ever release, which you hinted at, John, or straight out said. You didn't really hint at it. We we're doing 3 wines, and one of them is a brand new first ever release. So we have our 2018 GSM, which is going to be a distribution wine, but that's going to be one of the wines that everybody needs to try. So you get to try it first. And then you'll be able to see it in stores. It should be out there any day now.
It better be tomorrow because we shipped it 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And it's I have to plug it because I'm very proud of it. It's a beautiful wine, and you know, John did a great job, and the label is beautiful. Brett spent a long time on it.
Yes, he
Beautiful
did.
wine, beautiful package, everything.
Yes. So
It is outstanding.
Yes. So next week's package is the 2018 White Wing, the 2018
Ooh.
GSM that's brand new, and the 2017 Cabernet Franc Reserve. And I think we all know how I feel about Cabernet Franc.
You're an
So
enthusiast.
I'm an enthusiast.
She is.
Also, if you look at the bottle shots of all 3 of those, they look so pretty together because they all have this really pretty red element to all 3 of the labels, and I really love all 3 of those bottles. They just aesthetically go really well, and they're also very distinct wines, each one in their own. And I think, again, you know, every week I kind of make this comment, but we make so many different wines, and I love the fact that they're all so dramatically different. And I think that's what has lent for us to be able to do so many virtual tastings where we have so many things to choose from. And I'm really glad that we have a brand new thing to release to people next week.
Have you sent out the email for that, Rebecca?
Yes.
Okay, so somebody was asking online. Can they go on our website and
It is
order?
on the website. I sent the email out. The email went out at like 7 a.m. on Monday. But if you didn't get the email or haven't seen it, it is on our website under go to shop and go to virtual tasting packs.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
So that was another shot of another cat for you, Trish. I'm not going to run out of cats anytime soon.
Keep them coming.
So so we're, again, just to repeat, we're doing the GSM, the Cab Franc, and what was the 18
White Wing.
Okay. So if you're
3 more great Thanksgiving wines. And if you're
True.
cooking that night, if you're getting things ready, flip us on and spend a few minutes with us before
if
Thanksgiving.
you're cooking that night, flip us on, drink all 3 bottles, and see how the meal turns out the next
Yeah.
day. Just saying. Yeah. Call it a social experiment.
That's what we say. It'll be fine. Just do it.
That's right.
Fine.
Well, everyone, any final words to wrap up this week, Joe?
No, just I think it's going to be, you know, Thanksgiving is going to be hard in many ways because we can't be with the people that we want to be with. But I think we're all thinking about our family members. I think we're just wanting everybody to be safe, and I think we're going to see the light at the end of the tunnel soon. And I look forward to the times when we can shake each other's hands again, when we can be with the people that we love again. That we can. But I hope that people continue to join us for these these weekly wine tastings and discussions. And I have to say, I think we have a wonderful crew we get to spend time with, and I really appreciate all of the hard work that all of you guys have done every week for this.
Thank you, Joe. And I would like to second that. One of the things we can be thankful for over the next week is that we do have people to love, that people
That's
love
right.
us,
True.
that you always have a good glass of wine and a great memory. And if you can't be with everybody, rely on that. Give them a call, talk to them. Other than that, cheers. And we'll see you next Wednesday, the night before Thanksgiving.
Cheers.
For yet another wonderful 3-pack.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Now, those anything.